The stars always seemed so quiet, peaceful even. For centuries, civilizations across the galaxy thought Earth was just another primitive planet. A blue rock, tucked in a backwater system. Nothing special, just wildlife. And weak, emotional bipeds. Trying to survive. The Galactic Order had thousands of reports, filed under Earth. Unremarkable, inhospitable to advanced culture. No immediate threat. That was their first mistake. A big one. The biggest, actually. Captain Zier of the Euler Dominion didn't want the assignment. Not at all. He was too seasoned, too decorated. For a mission like this, babysitting a scouting crew, orbiting a planet full of loud mammals, and cheap entertainment broadcasts. Insulting. He'd seen real war, fought in the blood wars of THR, led fleets against the more Cothi Empire. Earth was a joke, a bad one, a really bad one. But the joke stopped 3 hours after landing. The scout team never returned. Poof, gone, vanished. They had touched down in a rural part of the North American sector, somewhere called Montana. According to the outdated Earth maps they'd translated, a forested area with scattered settlements, minimal tech signals. It was supposed to be safe. Zier had approved the drop himself. Confident, so confident, that the small, six-being team would gather the samples, set up monitoring beacons, and return by evening. No problem. But the sun set, the earth grew dark, and the team was silent. No signals, no distress calls, just gone, like they'd vanished in a thin air. Swallowed. The planet just ate them. Zier's ship, the Tyrannax, hovered in low orbit, cloaked from human tech. He stood in the observation deck, staring at the planet below, with a growing sense of unease. Something was wrong, very wrong. A cold knot in his gut, a familiar feeling, from real war. Commander, the navigator's voice broke the silence. A little too eager, a little too fast. We're receiving a transmission. Encrypted, old frequency, but it's coming from the surface. Direct. Zier frowned. Play it. Now, he commanded. His crew scrambled. The audio crackled, distorted, but it was unmistakably a voice. A human one. So clear. You shouldn't have come here, it said. Calm. Measured. Too calm. Then a second voice. Colder. Sharper. We know what you're looking for. We've been waiting. For you. All of you. Zier's blood ran cold. Trace it. Now, he commanded. His crew scrambled, pulling data, locking onto coordinates. It was close. To the original landing zone. Same area. Same trees. But different now. The trees were gone. Burned. Scorched earth. Captain, the tactical officer said, eyes wide. Disbelief. Pure shock. The scout ship, it's been dismantled. No sign of the team. But oh, a hollow image projected above them. Crude, but efficient. A structure, built from the wreckage. Barriers, perimeter sensors, cameras, and standing among it all, humans, armed, ready, waiting. They turned our own tech against us, Zier muttered, almost a whisper, his voice tight. In under a day. Incredible. Impossible. No species was that fast. Unless he issued the order himself. A retrieval squad. 10 of their best. Stealth armor. Plasma rifles. Neural dampeners. In and out. Quick extraction only. No engagement. 2 made it back. Just 2. That's it. And they weren't unscathed. One was missing a leg. Just gone. A clean cut. The other, his mind shattered. Eyes hollow. Muttering nonsense. Over and over. They smiled while they killed us. He kept repeating. They smiled like they were made for it. Like it was fun. A game. Zier finally began to understand. Earth wasn't primitive. It was hiding. Waiting. A planet of apex predators that had evolved, not to hunt animals, but each other. For thousands of years, war wasn't just a necessity. It was a culture, a religion, a drug. Humans weren't peaceful. They were perfected violence. And someone, some group, was still watching, still waiting. In the shadows, the messages didn't stop, each one clearer, more direct, more chilling. A taunt. "You want a war?" the human voice said. "Then welcome to hell. You found it. Congratulations." "Idiot." The alien council didn't believe him. When Captain Zier transmitted his emergency report back to the Euler Dominion's High Assembly, they accused him of exaggeration, of letting a few skirmishes rattle his judgment. Even after seeing the footage, blurry images, humans building kill zones from alien wreckage, laughing as they hunted the squad like prey, the council dismissed it, an anomaly, primitive aggression. They called it unrefined tactics. Zier knew better. He had seen dozens of species fight. He knew the difference between chaos and calculated violence. What the humans did wasn't panic. It wasn't desperation. It was methodical, trained, as if war wasn't just in their culture. It was carved into their very DNA, a part of them, an instinct, a hunger. Back on Earth, the second recon drone had just sent back new footage. This time, it wasn't just a few armed locals. They had found something buried deep beneath a mountain, some kind of facility, camouflaged so well. Even the Dominion scanning tech nearly missed it. But once they found it, Zier couldn't stop staring at the feed, his eyes glued. Weapons, thousands of them, not just guns, devices, prototypes, machines. Even the Dominion couldn't identify. Some looked ancient, others far ahead of anything humans should have been capable of. Experimental weapons, etched with warnings, handwritten signs, reading Project Doomspill, and for use only if God abandons us. A dark humor, and people, humans in uniform, working around the clock, nonstop, sleepless. "Sir," said a technician, voice shaking, trembling. We ran a comparison on the symbols found on their uniforms. It matches data from Earth's own archives, military emblems. But this isn't official. This group doesn't exist in their public databases. We can't find them. Nowhere. Zier's eyes narrowed. Then who the hell are they? Really? What are they? The technician hesitated. "We believe they call themselves the Bastion, a road defense faction. Hidden, autonomous, possibly centuries old, very old, ancient. How many are there? We don't know. The signals are spread across multiple continents. It's possible there are dozens of these facilities, everywhere, hiding." Zier stood in silence, staring down at Earth, like he was seeing it for the first time. Not a weak planet, not a backwater, a weapon cache, a living arsenal. He finally understood why they hadn't been discovered before. The humans weren't reckless. They were patient, very patient. Every war, every revolution, every civil collapse, it hadn't broken them. It refined them, hardened them, ground them down into something sharper, something deadly. Suddenly the ship's alarms blared. A piercing shriek, loud, urgent. "Unidentified object approaching," shouted the navigator, his voice cracking. It's coming from Earth. Fast, too fast." Zier turned toward the viewport, just in time to see it. A single missile, burning hot, through the vacuum, screaming towards their orbit. They didn't think humans could launch that fast. They were wrong. So wrong. Utterly, tragically wrong. "Shields up," Zier barked. The impact rocked the Tyrannax, sending half the crew crashing to the floor. Lights flickered. Fires broke out across the engineering deck. It wasn't just any missile. It was designed with Dominion tech. Modified, upgraded. How had they gotten access? Then he remembered. The first scout team. Their gear. Their weapons. Humans didn't just kill. They learned. They scavenged. Efficiently. Ruthlessly. "Return fire?" his second-in-command asked, blood trickling from his brow. Zier hesitated. His pride wanted revenge. His training screamed for a counterstrike. But something deeper held him back. A primal fear that the more they pushed, the more humans would reveal. And if this was only the beginning, just a taste, a warning shot, a sample, not yet, Zir said, his voice low, heavy, almost a whisper. We're not just dealing with another species. We've awakened something old, something made for war, an ancient evil, ours. We woke it up, and it's hungry. There was silence across the deck. As his words sank in, a chilling realization. Then a new message flashed. On the central screen, another Earth transmission. This time, video. A man stood in front of a ruined scout pod, Dominion rifle slung over his shoulder. Mid-40s, calm eyes, tactical gear, smiling. A terrifying smile, a predator's smile. We've read your history, he said, his voice raspy. Low, you fight for conquest, for power, for ego. He stepped forward, gaze cold and steady, unblinking. We fight for the thrill of it. We love it, every bit, the rush. The screen went black, and for the first time in his long, blood-soaked career, Captain Zir felt fear, real fear, a cold, deep dread. The Dominion fleet arrived. 2 days later, 10 ships, armed to the teeth, each one capable of leveling cities. The High Assembly had finally taken Zir seriously, though they framed it differently. In their official communique, a show of strength, to suppress rising threats from Earth's primitive species. Zir didn't argue. Let them think it was a show of force. He knew better. He stood on the bridge of the Tyrannax, staring at the fleet formation, glowing in orbit above Earth. Massive dreadnoughts hovered, like gods, over the planet, blocking out parts of the sky. To the average human looking up, they'd seem like new stars, or perhaps omens. But the humans weren't looking up in fear. They were preparing, waiting, eager. We've intercepted over a dozen human military broadcasts, the comms officer reported. Her voice tight, strained, encrypted at first, but now they're wide open. Almost like they want us to hear. Like a dare, a taunt, an invitation. Zir's jaw tightened. Play it. The voice that came through wasn't the same man from before. It was a woman this time. Clear, confident, and calm. Too calm. Dangerously calm. You want to dance with monsters, she said. Her voice a silken menace. Then come closer. We don't bite unless you beg for it. And you will. Oh, you will. Her voice was followed by coordinates. A challenge. Right there. A direct invitation. The council ordered a tactical strike. A single city, chosen for its remote location and low civilian density. They want a clean message. Submit or burn. Zir didn't bother arguing. He had already warned them. The Dominion didn't listen to warnings. They only learned through blood and pain and humiliation. The dreadnought Valkyrian was selected to fire. It charged its plasma array and released a sun-sized beam towards the coordinates Earth transmission had given. The city vanished, incinerated, gone. At first, the Dominion cheered, a small victory, a hollow one, until 30 minutes later, when the Valkyrian went completely dark. No communication, no response, not even a distress ping. A ghost ship, floating, silent. They tried to send a patrol, to investigate, but before the smaller cruiser could reach it, a new object appeared in its path. Small, fast, human-made. It wasn't a ship. It was a carrier pod, full of soldiers, in exosuits, hurling toward the cruiser. Like a comet, the humans had launched a boarding party into space. Unthinkable, unprecedented, crazy. Zir watched in horror as the live feed from the cruiser flickered. The crew fought, but it was chaos. Pure, unadulterated chaos. These weren't untrained ground troops. They were specialized killers, moving like they'd done this before. Who the hell trains to board ships in zero gravity? Psychos. Within 7 minutes. The cruiser was silent. Dead. Another ship lost. Zir slammed his fist on the command console. How are they doing this? They don't have the tech. They don't have the infrastructure. It's impossible. It defies logic. Every rule. They have something else, whispered his lieutenant. His voice barely audible. A tremor of fear. They have intent. Pure, unadulterated intent. A will. Unbreakable. That night, another human message came through. This time, it was a recording of the Valkyrian's bridge. Its command staff, executed, hung upside down, in gravity locks, like trophies. A brutal display. One of the soldiers walked past the camera, pausing long enough to whisper something before the feed cut. Try harder. The Dominion ships locked their defenses tighter. Every gun charged. Every soldier on edge. No one had seen this coming. Except Zir. He knew. He sat alone, in his quarters, watching recordings of human history. Wars, revolutions, genocides, political betrayals. He watched as humanity thrived in chaos, adapted to disaster, evolved in hatred. They didn't just survive war. They needed it. A dark hunger, a primal urge. And now that the Dominion had given them one, they were going to show the galaxy. What happened when you dared to fight a species that was built to destroy itself? And when Zir looked into the void, beyond the viewport, and whispered to himself, "We didn't discover Earth. We unleashed it, like a plague, on ourselves. What have we done?" They tried diplomacy next, after the loss of 2 ships and over 300 soldiers. The High Assembly finally understood. This wasn't a standard suppression mission. This was a nightmare, a living hell. They sent a delegation vessel, a white flag ship, unarmed, with the finest diplomats the Dominion had to offer. It was supposed to open a channel, request peace, and establish negotiations. Zir didn't believe it would work, not because he thought humans wouldn't listen, but because he understood their game now. They didn't want peace. They wanted proof. Proof that the galaxy's most arrogant empires could bleed. And bleed they would. Oh yes, the diplomatic vessel never made it to the surface. It was intercepted mid-descent, rerouted via a hack guidance system, and landed deep in the Siberian wilderness. Dominion sensors lost track of the crew for nearly an hour. Then, out of nowhere, a new signal lit up their consoles. Live feed, broadcasted across every Dominion channel. The diplomats were alive, bound, blindfolded, and kneeling in a snowy clearing. Behind them stood 6 humans, dressed in mismatched combat armor and civilian jackets. One of them wore a Dominion officer's cape, like a trophy. The same woman who'd spoken before stepped into view. She wasn't smiling this time. No mirth, just cold fury. "You came to talk," she said, pacing behind the hostages. Her voice a low snarl. "But you didn't come to listen. So let's make this real simple." She pulled a Dominion translator collar off one of the diplomats and held it to her mouth. "We are not a species you conquer. We are not a species you monitor. We are not your next project. We are not yours to control. Ever." The feed cut out with a gunshot. Abrupt. Only one of the diplomats was returned, in pieces, stuffed into a Dominion cargo pod, and launched back into orbit. A message burned into his severed chest armor. "This is mercy. The next time, we erase you." The Dominion Council panicked, no longer united in arrogance. They began debating. Retreat, escalation, even full-scale annihilation of the planet. Zir listened to the arguments with a numb expression, knowing none of it would matter. The humans had already won, not militarily, not tactically, psychologically. Fear was growing, not just within the Dominion, but across other species. Watching from the galactic fringe, rumors spread, whispers, in backwater stations, pirate hubs, smuggler dens, Earth is awake. They turned war into an art form. They don't fear death, they train for it. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was awe, a terrifying respect, a new legend. Some species began pulling their observers off Earth. Others started forming quiet alliances. With human factions, there were even reports of mercenary groups defecting to fight with the humans, for the thrill, for the chaos, for the ideology. Because for the first time in centuries, someone was standing up to the Galactic Order and laughing in its face, loudly, defiantly. Back on the Tyrannex, Zir sat in his command chair, watching the latest footage from a drone. They'd snuck past Earth's orbital grid. It showed a human base, built inside the ruins of a pre-apocalypse city, Detroit. He believed it was called. What caught his attention wasn't the humans' training, or the captured Dominion tech they were dismantling. It was the wall, covered in writing. Thousands of names, etched by hand. Some were Dominion, some were human, some were other. Beneath it all, a phrase scrolled, in blood-red paint. We remember every empire that came for us. Zir exhaled slowly. This wasn't about territory. This wasn't about politics, or expansion, or defense. This was personal, deeply personal. The humans didn't just want to win. They wanted to humiliate, to burn away the myth of alien superiority, to show the universe that the species everyone dismissed as emotional, erratic, and savage had been training for this their entire existence. They were war incarnate. And now, war had come home with a vengeance. A cold, calculated vengeance. Word spread like wildfire. The attack on the Dominion fleet. The butchered diplomats. The war wall. Every piece of it leaked across the galactic net. Systems that had never even heard of Earth were now watching shaky footage of human soldiers using stolen alien tech like it was their own. Governments panicked. Empires braced themselves. For the first time in centuries, the order was cracking. But Earth wasn't finished. Not even close. Not yet. Inside one of the buried facilities. This one, somewhere in what used to be South America, an alarm sounded. Not a warning of attack. A launch sequence. Underground hangars lit up. Steel doors, the size of city blocks, slid open, grinding against decades of silence. Rockets, fighters, experimental orbital weapons projects, once buried by treaties, shame, or fear, now surged to life. Above the planet, Zir watched as a cluster of sleek black ships rose into the atmosphere. "They're leaving the planet," said the sensor officer. Stunned, all of them, Zir stepped forward. Where are they headed? The room was dead silent. For a few seconds, while data streamed in, then the officer whispered, "Every ship is headed to a different Dominion colony." No one spoke. It was a message. Humanity wasn't just defending Earth. They were spreading. Contagion. A terrible infection. Colonial systems across Dominion space began sending distress calls. Within the hour, mining outposts, agricultural moons, research stations, places that had never even heard of Earth, were now under siege. But the humans weren't killing indiscriminately. They were targeted. Surgical. They disabled communications first, crippled defense systems. Then they walked in. Surgical. Efficient. Terrifying. They took Dominion officials hostage, raided archives, downloaded centuries of military data, then disappeared without leaving a single soldier behind. What they left instead were messages written in Dominion blood, spray painted across shattered walls, and torn banners. "This is for the slave camps on Kix 5, for the children of Razithal. Remember Eros Prime." Zir felt his throat tighten. The humans knew, not just about the Dominion, about everything. All the dark history, the buried atrocities, the campaign scrubbed from public record. The kind of secrets empires killed to keep quiet. Humans were broadcasting them across the galaxy, one attack at a time. The Dominion's grip was slipping. Worlds began to rebel. Minor species started rioting, demanding answers. Some even turned their weapons on their own governors. Because if humanity, a species no one had taken seriously, could rise up and fight back, why couldn't they? Why not us? Zier stared at the map of active human movements, spreading through space. Like wildfire, red blips lighting up, across 3 sectors now. This isn't war, he murmured. This is infection, and it wasn't random. It was personal. These weren't just acts of vengeance. They were surgical strikes against the Dominion's soul. For every colony they hit, every secret they exposed, they dragged centuries of cruelty into the light, and somewhere in the chaos, one name kept resurfacing: the Bastion. They weren't rogue anymore. They were leading. Every strike traced back to them, every encrypted feed, every target, and no one, not Zier, not the Council, not the Dominion's most advanced AI, knew where they came from, how they coordinated, who led them. But one thing was clear: the Bastion wasn't trying to win a war. They were trying to break an empire, one memory at a time. Smash it. They weren't born in one place. That was the first revelation. The Bastion wasn't a single government, army, or hidden nation. It was a collective, a mosaic of the broken, the forgotten, the betrayed. Soldiers who'd been court-martialed for questioning command. Scientists blacklisted for refusing to weaponize their research. Survivors of Dominion Black Ops programs. Even civilians whose homes had been accidentally bombed during peacekeeping missions. They came from everywhere, and they had one thing in common. The Dominion had destroyed their lives. Every single one. Completely. The files Zier recovered from a raided human installation told fragments of the story, not the kind of story told in textbooks or on diplomatic floors. This was the version, scratched into walls, by survivors, too angry to die and too smart to forgive. It started after first contact, long before the invasion. The Dominion had sent observers to Earth under a false peace initiative. They studied, took samples, infiltrated governments, whispered to corporations, weaponized human division. When chaos broke out, wars, disease spikes, economic collapses, the Dominion stepped in with a cure, with order, and in exchange, Earth gave them their poor, their prisoners, their debtors. It was slavery, disguised as salvation. Entire generations disappeared into off-world rehabilitation programs. Parents told their children they'd be back someday. They never came home. Not one, but some escaped. And those who did remembered everything, every single detail. The Bastion was born from that memory. Its founder was once a Dominion war asset, a young girl, taken from Nairobi, trained in zero-G combat, then discarded when her usefulness ended. They left her to die on a mining moon. She didn't. Her name was Asha, 19, and she didn't just survive. She thrived, built a resistance cell, took over a Dominion skirmisher, and then quietly, over the next 10 years, she built the Bastion, piece by piece. Methodically, Zier watched a recovered video of her, standing before a crowd, in a crumbling underground hall. Her voice was low, steady, sharp as a blade. "They wanted us forgotten," she said, "but we remember. And when memory becomes weapon, empires fall." Behind her, a massive screen lit up, with Dominion emblems, each one crossed out. Below them, names, not of targets, of crimes. Operation Star Drought, Mass Relocation Protocol 7, the Razda Laritter, and finally, Earth Containment Project 01. Zier gripped the console until his fingers ached. Containment, that had always been a word they used. Not destruction, not conquest. Containment, because somewhere, Someone high in the Dominion had seen what Earth really was. A weapon. Asha, 19, and her followers didn't fight like rebels. They fought like survivors. Turned surgeons, cutting deep, with intent, with purpose, not to overthrow the Dominion, to expose it. And they were winning. Big time. They called it Operation Purity. The Dominion's retaliation wasn't just a strike. It was a full-scale cleansing campaign. Fleet carriers by the dozens, orbital siege platforms, kinetic bombardment payloads, the size of mountains. Every protocol that had once been marked too extreme for civilized use was greenlit in a single day. No more diplomacy, no more attempts to study or contain. The humans had embarrassed them, publicly, violently, and the Dominion had never tolerated humiliation. So they did what empires always do. When afraid, they overcompensated, massively, foolishly. Zir watched from a command deck of the Tyrannax as the Earth offensive fleet moved into position. Over 300 ships now, forming an orbital net, so wide, even the moon cast its shadow on their hulls. The Earth below looked quiet, too quiet. Scans showed movement, but no response, no launches, no countermeasures. They're waiting, one of the junior tacticians said. For what? Zir muttered, almost to himself. Then the order came. From high command, commence planetary suppression. The first wave wasn't even meant to kill. It was designed to blind, to rip out the planet's satellite grid, scramble the atmosphere with electromagnetic pulses, and reduce every power grid to smoke and sparks. But the moment the first EMP detonated in the stratosphere, something changed. Everything, every Dominion screen, on every ship, turned black, then static. Then a single phrase appeared, etched in blood-red letters, across the fleet's entire HUD system. We warned you. The scream of alerts flooded the deck. Systems went offline. AI core scrambled themselves. In a panic, even the Tyrannax, the fleet's flagship, began to flicker and groan like it was being torn apart. From the inside, multiple ships losing control, someone shouted. It's not a hack. It's a virus. A biological one. No one had seen it coming. The Bastion hadn't just prepared for this assault. They had designed it. They let the Dominion build their pride. Let them gather their forces. Let them march into orbit like gods, descending from heaven. And then, they pulled the trigger. 1 million dormant code packets, hidden in Dominion comms, since the very first contact with Earth, now activated at once. A digital plague, written in languages Dominion firewalls didn't even recognize. Ships collided. Engines failed. Targeting systems spun out. Some ships turned their guns on themselves before anyone could shut them down. And then, the humans came. Not in fleets. Not in neat, disciplined ranks, like Dominion strategists would have expected. They came in waves. Raiding parties. Stealth pods. Exosuits. Launched directly from mountain ranges. Makeshift orbital gliders. Loaded with explosives. Bristling with salvaged alien tech. One by one, Dominion ships started dropping from the sky, trailing fire, like dead gods. Zir's hands trembled. This wasn't just war anymore. This was revenge. Pure, unadulterated, down on the surface. The Bastion launched its final operation. Codename, Ashfall. The goal wasn't to destroy the Dominion's army. That would have been easy by now. The goal was to broadcast to every planet, every Dominion system, every species watching. Everyone now saw what the Bastion saw. A live feed, patched into Galactic networks, showed Dominion officers torturing prisoners. It showed slave pens, chemical sterilization camps, genetic experimentation, worlds harvested of all resources, and left to rot. Footage pulled for Dominion archives, spliced with real-time camera feeds, of soldiers screaming, Inside, burning ships. Above Earth. And then, Asha appeared again. This time, not in some underground bunker, but standing on the remains of a Dominion dropship. Blood on her boots. Ash in her hair. "No more secrets," she said softly. Behind her, a burning Dominion flag. Toppled. No more silence. She looked into the camera. Eyes like frozen fire. "You taught us how to suffer. Now we teach you how it ends." She raised her fist, and the skies lit up. The orbital defense cannons, once thought disabled by the initial EMP wave, roared to life. Weapons long hidden in Earth's crust, beneath oceans, inside glaciers, even within ancient mountain ranges, now reveal themselves, built not by modern governments, not by world powers, but by survivors, by engineers who never forgot, by dissidents who refused to move on. They've been building this response. 4 generations. The Dominion never stood a chance. Never. Not even a glimmer. By the end of the day, half the fleet was gone. The rest limped away, retreating, broken, silent. Zir stayed behind. He didn't order his crew to fight, didn't try to flee. He stood on the bridge of the Tyrannax, watching the Earth slowly rotate beneath him, and whispered to no one in particular. "We created this. We made the monsters." And somewhere deep in his soul, he knew they had only seen the beginning. The war was over, but the galaxy wasn't at peace. Not by a long shot. Not yet. What was left of the Dominion scattered, like ash in a solar wind. Systems that once flew their banners, burned them in public squares. Colonies that once bowed at their feet, now hunted their governors in the streets. The empires didn't fall with a grand explosion. They rotted, fast, and from the inside. But Earth didn't celebrate. No fireworks, no parades, because the Bastion had one last message. One final broadcast, a chilling farewell. Days after the last Dominion ship left Earth's orbit, Asha stood beneath the shattered remains of what had been a Dominion consulate in Geneva. Its once pristine walls, now covered in the names of the lost. Millions of them. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. Her voice was tired, honest. "You want to know what we are," she said. "What we were built for. Now you know." The camera panned slightly. Behind her stood not soldiers, but families, survivors, children who had never known peace, scientists who had cracked alien encryption just to survive, farmers who had turned their fields into minefields. Every kind of human the galaxy had once dismissed. "We didn't want to conquer," she continued. "We wanted to live. But you made sure we could only live if we learned how to kill." She looked straight into the camera, her gaze unwavering. "You built an empire on forgetting. We remembered everything." The screen faded to black. Then a final image. "Let the galaxy rebuild. Without fear. Without you." And that was it. The Bastion didn't claim territory, didn't install governors, or demand reparations. Earth remained quiet, its skies clear, for the first time in months. The launch bays closed, the black ships landed, and power down, but the galaxy wasn't sure what to make of it. Some thought the humans were playing a long game, waiting to rise and rule from the ashes. Others believed they were too broken to continue, a flame burning too hot and too fast. Still others whispered that the Bastion isn't finished, that there are other enemies, other monsters, hidden behind flags and treaties, and gold-plated promises. And deep down, everyone feared one thing more than war: silence. Because humans didn't say what came next. They just watched, waited, always, patiently. Zir was taken alive, not by soldiers, not even by the Bastion, but by a group of civilians. In a refugee camp he'd helped build. For optics, for propaganda. They found him hiding in a ventilation shaft of a downed cruiser and dragged him out into the light. They didn't kill him. They made him see. They forced him to walk through what was left of the Razzle archives. Let him read the real numbers. The death tolls. The classified experiments he'd signed off on. Without reading. Then they left him. In a shack. With a solar-powered screen. Looping Asha's broadcast. Over and over. It was said he stopped speaking after 3 days. Stopped eating after 7. Stopped existing. Even as his body kept breathing. A symbol of a dying age. A ghost. Elsewhere in the galaxy, a quiet revolution was unfolding. Species long considered lesser by Dominion caste systems began rising into their own. New alliances formed, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Small planets, once bullied into trade pacts and military conscription, started negotiating fairly. And in the middle of it all, Earth remained still, rebuilding, quiet, watching. But those who truly paid attention noticed something strange. The Bastion didn't disband. They didn't return to their homes and fade into memory. They spread, not to conquer, to guard. Outposts built in asteroid belts. Listening stations planted near old Dominion border worlds. A ship seen every now and then. In contested space. Silent. Black. Marked only with a symbol. A broken chain, wrapped in flame. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. That no matter who tried to rise next, no matter what empire grew fat, with power and pride, humanity would remember. And when memory becomes weapon, empires fall. Always. Inevitably. As the years passed, stories became myths. The war turned into cautionary tales. For cadets, bedtime warnings for children of rulers. And yet, those who had seen the humans never forgot. Not their weapons, not their technology, not the look in their eyes. Because when the galaxy had tried to break Earth, it had only revealed what humans truly were. Beneath the surface, not diplomats, not allies, not even rebels. They were scars, turned into strategy. Pain, turned into precision. War, made flesh. And though peace bloomed in the galaxy again, it bloomed under the long, cold shadow of a species no one would ever underestimate again. Because now, everyone knew the terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't just made to survive war. They were built for it, perfectly, from the ground up.